Bruce Springsteen's deluxe reissue Nebraska 82 Expanded Edition was just released, containing additional songs from the Colts Neck Demo sessions, a new live recording of Springsteen playing the songs from the original Nebraska album, and probably the thing that has fans most excited about this release, the long-rumored, never-before-heard Electric Nebraska tapes. I already talked about Electric Nebraska and its significance in the Springsteen fan community and lore in a previous video if you want to check that out, but just to give a quick recap, in early 1982, Springsteen entered the studio with the E Street Band to try and record some of the songs he had been writing and recording at his home in Colts Neck, New Jersey. Ultimately, these full band sessions were considered a failure, not being able to capture the same spirit of the songs that was present in these home demos. Springsteen released 10 of these demos as his acclaimed album Nebraska, and later re-recorded and released some of the songs he originally demoed in Colts Neck on the Born in the USA album. But in the decades since, fans have become increasingly curious about what those Electric Nebraska sessions sounded like, and if we would ever actually get to hear them. With the tapes from these sessions being rediscovered this summer, and with the Springsteen movie Deliver Me From Nowhere, based on the making of the Nebraska album, coming out this fall, Bruce has finally decided to open the vault on these legendary recordings and allow fans to hear them for the first time. Now, despite really wanting to listen to these songs all day, I've been curious about this for a long time, I decided I was going to hold off until later in the evening when I was able to capture it on camera and try and do kind of a live reaction type of video listening to these Electric Nebraska songs. So here's what we're going to do. Going to listen through Electric Nebraska track by track and react to each song on it. And kind of after first listen, just get a baseline on whether we think this electric version is the superior version or if the acoustic version present on the original Nebraska album was actually the right call. And at the very end, I'm going to try and give an overall take on where Electric Nebraska stands in comparison to the original Nebraska album, as well as the couple of tracks that were eventually re-recorded for Born in the USA. Now, as excited as I am to get into this, my gut reaction, prediction, whatever, right at the beginning of this, kind of telling me I don't think that this electric version is going to be superior to the original. While Electric Nebraska has been the stuff of legend in the Springsteen fan community for decades now, my gut is kind of telling me that there's a reason that the original version of Nebraska is the album that we got. And with all the attention around Nebraska right now thanks to the movie, my hunch is that Springsteen wouldn't release an album that could potentially undermine the public perception and artistic integrity of the original Nebraska album at a time when so many eyes are on it. But that's just a guess. It's really hard to say without having actually listened to the album, so let's go ahead and get on into it. It's late on a Friday night, I've got a beer and a Springsteen tour koozie. We're going to start off with Nebraska. So it's already starting out pretty much like the album version. Alright, so just finished listening to the title track, Nebraska. I'm kind of seeing already, just off of that, why they ended up going with the original demos in the first place. Because even though there was a full band on that, you know, you had little bits of snare drum going there and hi-hat, you know, you had the bass going underneath it, some light keys, you could hear some mandolin chunking in the background there. None of it was really necessary. Like, none of it really added to the overall song. It didn't sound bad or anything, it just really didn't add anything extra to it that isn't present on that demo. And Springsteen's voice is a lot clearer on this recording, but to an extent, that kind of grittiness on those demo tapes from just, you know, the 4-track and the SM57s, like, it just kind of sounds better, honestly, for that song. And I just really didn't feel like anything that the E Street Band was doing on this song actually contributed much of anything to the overall feeling of the song. At least in contrast to the original Nebraska album. It kind of reminds me of over the summer I got to see Jason Isbell and the 400 Unit again, seen them a bunch of times, but this was the first time I had seen them since the release of Isbell's solo acoustic album, Foxes in the Snow, and a lot of those songs really just didn't need anything extra on them, and when they tried to adapt them for the full band, I feel like it kind of took some of the magic away from it, honestly. I don't know, I think there's something to be said for songs that can just sort of stand on their own. Next up, though, is Atlantic City, which I'm very excited to hear this. I mean, the E Street Band has played this live a bunch of times over the years. I'm kind of curious if that live version is going to line up much with the studio one. Let's go ahead and listen to it.
Well, they blew up a chicken man in Philly last night. They blew up his house, too. And the boardwalker getting ready for a hell of a fight. But I got in too deep and I could not pay. So I drew what I had from the Central Trust. And I bought 2 tickets on that Coast City bus. Everything dies, baby, that's a fact. And maybe everything that dies someday. I turned up dead out of luck and strung out on the line. Mister, this hand I've been dealt keeps me coming up short each time. I've been looking for a job, but it's hard to find.
Alright, gotta admit, I was skeptical going into that, but there was some interesting stuff going on there towards the end. I mean, first off, there were some lyrical changes in there. There's an extended final verse that just adds more depth to the character, which is really cool. I appreciate the groove. I appreciate the build. I don't know if it's an outright replacement for the original Nebraska version, but it does feel a little bit more thought out than that version does. I mean, on the demo, Springsteen kind of stumbles over the chords and the lyrics of the song at different times, and yet that made it to the final album, which, you know, there's something to be said for capturing a moment in time, but this just feels like a lot more intentional, and even though it doesn't feel like as big as it should be necessarily, it does feel a lot bigger, and there's enough interesting stuff going on here that I really like it. That's cool. I like that version. Maybe it's not the version I'll go back to every time, but I think it's certainly one that I'm going to revisit again from time to time. Alright, next up we got Mansion on the Hill. Just because of how quiet this song is, I'm getting a feeling that, yeah, it's probably going to be not that much different from the album version.
There's a place out on the edge of town, sir, rising above the factories and the fields.
Okay, I like that, you know. Again, I do think it's a lot like Nebraska, where it really didn't add all too much to have the E Street Band on there. The one thing I did really like on that, though, was the organ. It had a very old-school, churchy kind of feel, kind of gospel-y, and I did think that added some nice tones to the song. So, you know, I like it, I'm not blown away by it. Alright, next up is Johnny 99.
Mom, Johnny went out looking for a job, but he couldn't find none. He came home too drunk from mixing Tanqueray and wine.
I like that. I like Johnny 99. That was pretty cool. I'm getting the sense already that I think the rock tunes are going to be the ones where this album really shines, and the quieter, more folky ones might be the ones where it doesn't really feel like it has quite as much purpose there. I liked the groove on that. I liked the electric guitar parts. I liked the clarity in Bruce's vocals. I will say on the original version, sometimes it's kind of hard to understand what he's yelping. Like, truth be told, there's a lot of yelping on it. And I like that inclusion of the yells and the harmonica part at the end that kind of sound like This Little Light of Mine. Like, that's kind of a cool little touch to this version of the song. So yeah, I like this, and honestly, I would say I like this more than some of the live versions I've heard with the E Street Band over the years. Alright, up to this point, we've been following the track list of the original Nebraska. We're going to have our first departure here next with the inclusion of Downbound Train. I'm excited to hear what this sounds like. I like the version on 1984's Born in the USA. Let's hear what was envisioned for Electric Nebraska. Holy shit, I was not expecting that. That caught me so off guard. I was not expecting it to be that in your face. Why do I kind of love it, though? I kind of love it. Like, I'll be honest, like, I think that's a little bit of the excitement of hearing this version of it for the first time. I think in actuality, like, the version that's on Born in the USA is the better version. But I kind of love how brazen and in your face this version is. I mean, it's punk rock. I didn't know what was happening like the entire time that song was going on. that, I don't know, stuff like that excites me. I mean, the honest truth of it is, again, I think I'll probably stick to the Born in the USA version. I think it's a better version of that song and reflects what's going on in the lyrics a lot better, or at least unfolds the story a lot better. But, I mean, that was cool. I really enjoyed that. I was not expecting it to be like that. Moving on. We're going to listen to Open All Night.
1, 2, 3, 4. With a head that carburetor, baby clean and jet. With her line blown out, she's homing like a turbo.
That was kind of fun. I do feel like that was the most I felt like on this album so far, like I'm listening to a work in progress. And I felt like something has been missing from a few of the earlier songs, and I think it's guitar solos, which I'm imagining they were recording these rhythm tracks and then were eventually going to overdub some electric guitar parts on these that never ended up getting recorded. Most of the other songs, it really wasn't as obvious, but there's definitely a big open section in this song, so I just really felt like I was listening to something that was incomplete. It felt like it had a lot of potential, and it's interesting as a fan to get that kind of glimpse into the artistic process, but it just didn't really feel done. It didn't feel like it belonged on any sort of final album, which many of the other songs that have been on this Electric Nebraska set so far have felt like that. I love that song, but I didn't really feel like anything all that special was happening in that version. Alright, next up, I already know I love this, but I'm going to listen to it anyway. Born in the USA. Good night, man. I mean, like, I don't know what to say about that I didn't already say in my previous video. I think it's my favorite version I've heard of Born in the USA. I mean, just Springsteen's vocal performance on this song is amazing. The way he sings it really reflects the rage and desperation that the narrator of the song is feeling as he's recounting his experience of being a veteran, of coming from poverty, of all these things. And it's one that you would not just accidentally mistake for being a patriotic anthem like many people have the version on 1984's Born in the USA. Definitely a highlight from this album for me, if not like the peak of it. Alright, we got one more song to listen to from Electric Nebraska. It's Reason to Believe. I'm really looking forward to hearing this. I love the live version of this. But I also really love a version recorded by the band The Beat Farmers in the late 80s. And to me, honestly, that is kind of the definitive version of this song, other than the version on Nebraska. It's the definitive full band version. Let's just go with that. So I'm excited to hear it, but it's a high bar to clear.
See a man standing over a dead dog, and by the highway in a ditch. He's looking down, kind of puzzled, poking that dog with a stick.
Alright, some interesting stuff going on there. I like the bouncy rhythm of it. I mean, like, yeah, that's present on the original version. I feel like Bruce sounds bored in it. I feel like his vocal performance just does not sound very inspired or engaged or interested. Maybe it was the fatigue of these sessions wearing on and not feeling like they're reaching a progress, but yeah, I just did not feel like he sounded as engaged with the song as he does on the original Nebraska, so I don't know, I've got to go with that original version, I think. And you know what, at the very end of this, I think this is a very interesting project to listen to, but I think it's mostly interesting as a fan and as a fan of music history and diving into the stories behind artists that I like. I think for the most part, this sounds like exactly what it is. These are unfinished sessions from something that was supposed to be an album eventually, but it never really quite got there. It never found its way to fruition. And while there are some moments on it that I really enjoy, like, again, Atlantic City caught me totally off guard. I was fully willing to kind of write that off and be like, yeah, there's no way it's going to be better than the original, and then yet found a lot of interesting things to enjoy about it. I love the Born in the USA version of it. Like, it's just, there's some great stuff on here. But it's not complete. It doesn't feel as realized as it could be. And with the original Nebraska, you still have some freshness in it. Not everything feels fully realized, but it feels like you're watching something pure to some degree. I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe it's just because it's like at the beginning of the creation process, it's the demo, it's really when there's some like kind of spark and life and something new being brought into the world on it. Whereas this, it just kind of sounds exhausted and unfinished at times. So while I really like it, and there's going to be some stuff that I revisit on here from time to time, I think the original Nebraska is a better album than Electric Nebraska, at least on first listen. Who knows? Maybe, again, this is all reaction-based. I could come around later on and be like, you know what? Actually, after further review, I think I really enjoy Electric Nebraska more than the original. But I don't really feel like that's going to happen. I just don't think it's going to. I really enjoyed this, don't get me wrong. I'm glad it's finally out there for fans to hear. And I think to some extent it was worth the hype too. But I think Nebraska is just such a solid album for something that like accidentally became an album that it's really hard to compete, especially for something that's not fully formed and fully finished. So yeah, in the battle between Electric Nebraska and Acoustic Nebraska, or Original Nebraska, whatever you want to call it, Original Nebraska wins. But that's just what I think. What do you think? Did you enjoy Electric Nebraska? Were there moments that surprised you? What do you think of the bonus tracks and the rest of this box set? I haven't gotten to dive in quite as deep on that yet as I'd like to, but I know I'm going to at some point. Let me know in the comments below. I'm Brent Funkhauser from Red Moon Media. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe. I talk about roots music, Americana, folk, country, some rock on here. And if you follow along, I might be talking about some of your favorite artists here soon. Thanks for watching.